This is Special Prosecutor Larry Kramer.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating.
Today's the day. Old Navy's famous flip-flops are $1. Plus, get free flip-flops when you spend $24 or more in-store or online. Today only at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Valid 6/15, solid color only. Limit 10 in stores, 5 online. Free offer valid before noon PST.
News stories. Larry Kramer, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Kramer. My colleague, Jason Goodman, he's co-hosting today. He's the owner and creator of Crowdsource The Truth, a publication that goes out on the internet, for lack of a better word, publication that does tell the truth. And we have some big news this week. We, of course, started our citizens' grand juries. We met and we procured a true bill of indictment against Robert Mueller. You're going to see more of that next week. We have a video of that. Jason's preparing it now, and you're exactly what we did. It obviously concerns the illegality and crime with regard to my client, Jerry Corsi, how he was coerced and threatened to lie against the president. Otherwise, he would be indicted. Mueller was indicted for the exact same thing, ironically, that Roger Stone was indicted for, and that is tampering with witnesses, obstruction of justice, and we added a little touch at the end, treason, because basically it's a coup d'etat trying to take the president down. You'll hear more about that. So this is just a little teaser. But one of the things true about Larry Kramer and Freedom Watch, we make good on our promises. We actually take action. We're not just getting documents. Like I said, documents are great. You can put them in a frame and hang them on your wall. But now is the time for justice. And it's the American people that have to mete out justice. Just this week, we saw that Attorney General Bill Barr caved in to Gerald Nadler, the head of the House Judiciary Committee, turned over internal documents in terms of the Mueller report. We see that the individual by the name of John Durham, who's doing this investigation up in Connecticut, the U.S. attorney, there is no grand jury that's been impaneled. They're just gathering information to write a report. We won't even see that report probably until the next election or after the next election. And therefore, we need to take action ourselves. The American people need to rise up. I've been saying that over and over again. It's not enough just to get documents and go on Fox News. I'm sorry, that's great for ratings, that's great for advertising dollars, but it doesn't do any justice, pun intended, I might add, to this country, because we are in a dire strait. And right now, you can see the politics of personal destruction. You can see the politics of destruction against this country. Nancy Pelosi, just in the last few weeks, has called the president a felon. She wants him locked up and imprisoned for the rest of his life, presumably, engaging in a cover-up. You see what happened with regard to Kellyanne Conway, this hack individual, a special counsel, so to speak. Yeah, he is special in the French word, special. That doesn't, it's not too, it's pejorative in French. She has, of course, been recommended to be fired by the White House simply because she commented on people that happen to be running for political office. She also was subject to a bar complaint by 16 leftist law professors, one of which, actually sits on bar committees and disciplinary committees in the District of Columbia. They burn the conservative lawyers, but they don't touch the leftist lawyers like Kendall, who actually helped destroy 33,000 emails for Hillary Clinton of Williams and Conley. Sarah Sanders, she's vilified. She's leaving the White House. The poor gal has been beaten to death. I guess probably they're going to have a new press secretary, this guy Gidley. Will probably take the role. They're gearing up for impeachment. The president is surely going to be impeached. But with regard to Nancy Pelosi, we have started the Pelosi Project. And you can find a column that I wrote about that on our website at freedomwatchusa.org. We are going to be investigating Pelosi. We're going to take her apart legally. She's a witch. I call her the Wicked Witch of the West. Hillary Clinton's now the Wicked Witch of the East. The two witch sisters are out there trying to destroy the president and take down this country. Hillary, of course, is wounded. She's like a wounded water buffalo. She's dangerous. She still has all of her friends in the deep state that are out there trying to destroy the president and destroy this country. And Pelosi, of course, just look at the way she emits venom. I mean, she literally drips with hatred. And this is not just an embarrassment to this country, but it's a real threat to this country. So we're going to be focusing on Nancy Pelosi, and legally we're going to take her down. She's reportedly has mafia connections, as a matter of fact. We're going to be looking into that. And all these different things are building, and they're getting greater and greater. It's reaching critical mass, and Freedom Watch has begun its citizens' grand juries. The war has begun peacefully and legally. And watch what we do, because we need your support. We have our leftist media strike force. We're going up against the left. And, of course, we have our good friends like Jason Goodman out there who speak the truth and who are patriots themselves. Jason, welcome.
Great to be here, Larry.
Now, you are a partner in justice. I won't say a partner in crime. We've got to deal with the crime. But I want to get your observations on what's been going on with regard to Nancy Pelosi, the rabid Democrats, the attempts to take down the president, and how we are fighting back, not just with regard to citizens' grand juries, but in honest media such as Crowdsource the Truth.
Yeah. Well, Larry, it seems like people always criticize Congress, but I don't know that we've ever seen a more unjust Congress than what we have right now. I mean, going back to even when Brett Kavanaugh was being confirmed, we hear people in the House and the Senate coming out with things that are just patently incorrect. Things like you have the right to be believed, backing Robert Mueller when he makes a press conference lamenting the fact that he couldn't exonerate the president. This is not the way the law is supposed to work in the United States of America, but we've got these members of Congress who are gaslighting the public and basically conducting social engineering to convince people that these things are totally okay, just like they want undocumented non-citizens to vote to steer the future of our country.
Well, that's very true, and it's not just Congress. I don't even call them Congress anymore. They're a bunch of clowns. They're diverting the attention of the American people from real important issues that we have to deal with, whether it's trying to denuclearize Korea, whether it's dealing with Iran. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. Whether it's social media, such as Facebook and Google and Twitter, who we know ourselves, Jason, they've been limiting people that can subscribe on YouTube to both Freedom Watch and Crowdsource the Truth and others. As a matter of fact, we're going to be bringing a lawsuit next week for Laura Loomer against Facebook that called her dangerous. She's obviously not dangerous, and they're trying to destroy her reputation, trying to destroy her. She's been a whipping girl, so to speak, of social media, so has many others. But we are in a state of war. It's a war between left and right. It's a war between good and evil. It is a war that we must win peacefully and legally, and we must fight it on all fronts. We're dealing here with leftist fascists that are out there, whether it's radical Muslims, whether it's radical feminists, whether it's radical atheists, whether it's radical blacks, whether it's the Jewish left, which is quite radical and actually is a threat to the Jewish people and Israel, or whether it's just individuals out there that just want to destroy this country because they think it's fun. They want to take it down and destroy it and then build it back up in this ultra-leftist image. We cannot allow that to happen, and we cannot wait for our so-called Justice Department to do the job that we, the American people, must do for ourselves, as we did in 1776 and thereafter. So, Jason, I thank you for what you do. Give the people a little information about Crowdsource the Truth, because I want people to really go to Crowdsource the Truth. I want you to subscribe to Crowdsource the Truth on your various networks, because we're not getting the truth, out of Fox News anymore. I mean, just yesterday, Napolitano and Shepard Smith, smashed the president again. Napolitano said the president was committing a felony by saying he would listen to foreign sources if anything came up with regard to presidential or other candidates. There's nothing wrong with listening to people. And frankly, he said he would even turn it over to the FBI. I don't know that that's going to be very helpful. The FBI, frankly, has become a corrupt, sinister organization that has, in the past, tried to take him down, the presidency. So anyway, Jason, tell people about who you are, because I want them to start following what you're doing.
Right before the 2016 election, I was just looking around, and as you say, Fox News, whether it's Fox, CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, all these different mainstream media outlets, they're driven by the agenda of their advertisers, because it's a very simple feedback loop. If they publish anything or pursue any story that the advertisers don't like, the advertisers go away. So there's an action and there's a reaction. And what I wanted to do was to create a news show for the people, by the people, and of the people. And that's basically what Crowdsource the Truth is intended to be. There are no large corporate sponsors. Crowdsource the Truth relies on individual micro sponsorship. So just like somebody might buy a newspaper for $2 or a cup of coffee for $5, we're really focusing on getting people to subscribe on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, because we've gotten to this point, Larry, where although on the surface it may seem like you can watch video content on YouTube for free, YouTube is basically used essentially the heroin dealer business model, where you're getting it for free for the first 10 years until you get hooked on it as your source of information, and now they control the flow of information. They can easily shut out, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whoever, they can shut out voices like Laura Loomer. They can shut out channels from places like Freedom Watch or Crowdsource the Truth. And then people have no option but to listen to whatever it is that YouTube wants to put out. Adam Schiff recently had Amazon and all the other, YouTube never had Vaxxed on there, but he's taking away documentaries and information that he thinks people shouldn't have an opportunity to see.
We need other sources. There needs to be competition, conservative, libertarian competition. It cannot be Fox News solely. And in fact, now they're moving far left. So we're going to be right back with the second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Kramer and discuss more of what's been going on in this country and the world today, because we are in a crisis.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
You don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Kramer.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with Jason Goodman talking about the crisis in the Middle East. But you know what? It kind of comes home to roost, so to speak. This week, we learned more about Ilhan Omar, an individual who was exposed by Laura Loomer to have married her brother, immigration fraud, who cavorts around with groups that are connected to terrorism, such as CARE, and that's just one aspect of it. But up in Minnesota, the media revealed, and the Minnesota Election Commission, that in fact Ilhan Omar has been filing joint returns with someone who is not her husband. That's with the IRS. And this is really blowing up in her face right now. And it's important because, see, it was Laura Loomer who initially revealed this. She didn't threaten anybody. She revealed it. She gets no credit for it, yet Facebook bans her. And I have written a letter to Facebook on her behalf saying you better reinstate her, that you better, in fact, allow her to speak, give her free speech, that she's been severely damaged, and you're going to have to pay compensation for that. And if not, you're going to be sued. And that'll happen next week because Facebook's too arrogant, frankly, to do anything that would rectify the situation. And so are the other social media companies. But, what's really important here, and again, we speak the truth, okay? It is a fact that Islam, okay, which, frankly, I don't consider to be a religion. I consider it to be a cult. No group can be a religion if they advocate killing people. Yeah, Christians and Jews have killed people, but that's not the religion, okay? The religion of Islam teaches to kill the infidels, or at least to subject them to servitude and pay high taxes and whatever. Now, the same fact that Ilhan Omar, will lie about her past with her husbands or anything else. That's also taught in the Quran. You can lie in the name of Allah to accomplish the caliphate. And this is a segue to what's going on with Iran right now. Now, Jason and I might disagree on this slightly, but we know that ships have been attacked in the Persian Gulf. We know that this is probably, at least I think it is, retaliation for the sanctions against Iran. You know, Iran is an extremely dishonest regime. It's a radical regime. And just today, we understand that 6 Iranian vessels were set afire. I happen to think it probably was our Navy SEALs or maybe the Israelis or whoever working in tandem that pushed back covertly. We're not going to acknowledge that it was done, but we gave them back a little bit of their medicine after they, in my view, attacked tankers in the Persian Gulf. There was video that was shown this Friday morning of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard trying to remove a mine from a Norwegian vessel so their fingerprints wouldn't be on what was being done. I believe the Iranian regime is the most evil in the world. They're more of a threat to world peace, notwithstanding Israel, who they've vowed to annihilate, notwithstanding Jews and Christians and whoever that gets in their way. But they're just evil. For that reason, if we did do it, frankly, I applaud it. Now, you may have a different view. Jason, give your different view. But that's my point of view. And I'm glad that 6 ships were set ablaze in Iranian ports, their ships.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my concern, Larry, is that there's so much information that we get from our own government that is so provably false that when we hear, on the mainstream news that Iran has bombed these vessels, I personally would like to see evidence of that because it just sounds so familiar as far as Syria. They say Syria's used chemical weapons or gas attacks, so we have to bomb them. I mean, this just seems like the tried and true method. They blame whoever it is that they want to bomb or overthrow for doing something that, we as the public, I don't have any way of knowing if that's true. I don't have any eyes and ears on the ground in the Gulf of the Persian Gulf or where exactly these things are happening. So we have to take the news and the government and the CIA at its word. I was watching a segment on, I think, CBS, and they had a guy on there who was the former acting CIA chief. And my first thought is, why the hell should we believe this guy at all? The CIA has lied to us about it.
Let me say this. I'll be candid here. I'll be blunt. I don't care whether they need to be believed or not. I believe the Iranian regime needs to be eliminated. Period. I don't care what pretext there is, because they're a threat to Israel, they're a threat to us, they're a threat to Europe, they're a threat to the world. So, yes, on this one, I don't care what the CIA has done. I think it's time for the Americans to push back, to eliminate the nuclear threat, to eliminate that very evil regime. Anyway, we'll be back with the third segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Kramer. I want to talk about judges and what's been going on today and get Jason's thoughts.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Kramer.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I want to talk now and get Jason's input into the state of our judiciary. Now, it's something which isn't completely obvious to the American people. I've talked about it a lot. I'm hoping to do a seminar at the National Press Club sometime in late fall. I want to bring in experts to talk about how we select judges in the federal system in particular, what it is, the criteria that we need for those judges. And it's very important because I've always said that judges are our most important public servants. They have the ability to protect us from the tyranny of the government that Jason was just talking about. I don't refute that the CIA lies or that our government lies. I was simply saying that, in the context of Iran, we have to do something. It's grown and it's metastasized into a threat against world peace. But the judges are people who are supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to take the bench without being like Dr. Strangelove. And unfortunately, that's what we have today, is that if they're a defense lawyer in private practice and go to the bench, they think like a defense lawyer. If they're a prosecutor in private practice or with government and they come to the bench, they think like a prosecutor and they act that way. They also, frankly, don't know how to be judges, most of them. They're just plucked out of whatever they were doing, and they're put in the role of being a judge, and they're picked through political patronage. Generally speaking, it's the amount of political campaign contributions that either you or the law firm or the labor union or whoever you were with gave to a senator in a particular state and or the president that gets you your job. Now, sometimes, and very rarely, good judges do sneak through, such as Judge Royce Lamberth in the District of Columbia, and maybe a handful of others that I've seen in my career. But most of them are highly political animals. They're politicians in robes. They are very establishment types who got where they got by scratching the backs of the political establishment and doing favors for the political establishment. And that goes all the way to the Supreme Court. If you want to be a Supreme Court justice, you pretty much have to decide that's what you want to be from birth. And you can't make any so-called mistakes in terms of opinions you may have written on a lower bench or wherever else you were, or it will be used against you, because even the opposition political party, generally speaking, until recently, until they came up with this nuclear option, could block you. Now, people are under the misimpression, and I wrote about this last week as well in WorldNet Daily. You can see that article at freedomwatchusa.org. People are under the impression that because Trump is picking judges right now, that they're good conservative judges. Fred Barnes wrote a story in the weekly edition of the Washington Examiner about how great the Trump judges are. Now, don't be fooled by the Washington Examiner. This is a Republican establishment publication. It's the publication of the type like Karl Rove and others. They're no friend of the president. But the problem that the president had in choosing these judges, and I've come up against 2 or 3 of them already, and I got to tell you, they're absolute zeros. I mean, they're afraid of their shadow. I mean, it's like Puxatawny Phil on Groundhog's Day. I mean, if they see a shadow of how it might affect their future career, they run back into their hole and don't come out. Is that the president chose these judges at the recommendation of his then White House counsel, Don McGahn, and the Federalist Society. Well, Don McGahn's the guy that sold out the president in 30 hours of interviews with special counsel Robert Mueller, threw him under the bus, and told Mueller that the president had wanted him to lie about certain things that occurred in the White House. You know, there was an attorney-client privilege there, and frankly, I doubt that what McCann said is true. He was like a Manchurian candidate inside the White House for the Republican establishment that wanted to take the president down. You know, the Democrats, we can give them at least credit. When they stick the knife in, they do it frontally. When the Republican establishment does it, they stick the knife in the back. You know, people like Judge Napolitano and Fox News or whoever. It's in the back. So this is something that I want people to understand, because we need a way to choose judges in a much better way. We don't need politicians in robes. They need to protect the American people, and they need to be independent, and they're not. And I have a 5-part program. I want to get Jason's thoughts on this. I came up with this when I was running for the U.S. Senate in Florida back in 2003, 2004. First, we need to send judges to judge school before they even qualify to be nominated to be judges. You know, tax attorneys generally get what's called an LLM, a master's, and they learn how to be a tax attorney after law school. I think there should be a 1-year program for judges to teach them how to analyze a question, how to be neutral, how to present an image of fairness, because it's also important that the American people believe that they're fair, and to learn how to adjudicate an issue fairly and impartially. And that's very important, particularly when there's a political issue, because their politics enter into it. Secondly, the framers of the Constitution did many things that were right, and they were, I believe, inspired by God, but they didn't get everything right because they weren't God. And one big mistake that they made was to give these judges life tenure, because they feel like they're above the law. They can do whatever they want, whether they're Democrat appointed or Republican appointed. So I suggest that we have 2 5-year terms, renewable for good behavior, reevaluated, and the judges serve no more than 10 years, because at least that way they will be held accountable when they leave the bench. Right now, they're unaccountable. They do whatever they want, and they put them on the bench. Look at Chief Justice Roberts, who's, shown his liberal stripes. Look at Kavanaugh, that they thought was going to be conservative, who's been voting not just with Roberts, but with the liberal side of the bench. And that's just a few examples. So 2 5-year terms renewable for good behavior. When judges are nominated, there should be independent merits panels. Right now, judges are put up by a senator of a particular state to the president for him to nominate and then to have the Senate confirm. We need better merits panels recommending these judges. I went through the process years ago in Miami when I tried to be a U.S. attorney, of course, who was selected, the roommate of Jeb Bush. No surprise, during the administration of H.W. Bush. It's very, very political. It wasn't on the merit. Poor guy, Ricardo Martinez, he only lasted 3 months because Bush lost. But nevertheless, it's the same system which is used to select U.S. attorneys as to select judges. And at that time, the senator from Florida asked me, do you want to be a judge, Larry? You're obviously not going to be U.S. attorney because Jeb Bush's roommate is up for it. I said, no, I'm not a judge. I'm an advocate. I like to take sides. I like to fight. I don't want to be neutral. I'm sorry. Last but not least, and actually there's 2 other aspects to this, is that judges, I believe, should be forced to have psychological evaluation before they're nominated. A lot of them are just crazy. If they had a bad day with their wife or husband or girlfriend or boyfriend, they take it out on the litigants. And a lot of them are simply unstable, I might add. And last but not least, let's get them insurance, because if they make a grossly negligent or intentionally wrong decision, and I'll tell you something, many of them do, they don't care because they're immune. They can't be sued. They'll make that decision, and it will harm small litigants that can't afford to take appeals. So get them insurance, arbitrate damages that judges may inflict upon litigants that can't afford to go up against the big, powerful interests. That's my 5-part program. Now, it can be perfected, and I want to have a seminar to come up with a better way, because what we've got now, by and large, are political hacks on the bench. And therefore, it leaves the American people defenseless, and that's why we have to have citizens' grand juries. It's why the American people need to rise up themselves, because you can't look to the courts for justice. You can't look to our Justice Department for justice. Certainly you can't look to Congress for justice. And the executive branch, they don't have that ability, particularly when the president is under siege, like President Donald Trump. So, Jason, I want to get your thoughts on this and let me know exactly what it is that you think we need to do to clean this system up.
Well, Larry, I think you're right. This is one of the biggest problems facing everyone in the country, whatever side of the political fence you're on. If someone is wrongly accused or even gets into a civil matter, we want to make sure that the judges are impartial and fair and meting out justice, not advancing the political agendas of their donors or their friends and associates, because, otherwise there is no justice, as you've said. And, I agree, the Founding Fathers, they couldn't possibly hope to get everything right, but the basic premise, one of the most important basic premises, is this idea of checks and balances. And anytime anyone in any position, whether it's government or otherwise, has no accountability, well, of course they're going to become corrupt, because they can, in fact, do whatever they want with no consequences. So why wouldn't they do things that are in their own favor, in their own best interest? What we need is some oversight board that has no political influence and isn't affected by, if we had a nationwide citizens panel that could vote on, let's say a lawyer like yourself brings some sort of complaint against a judge, there should be some impartial panel that cannot be affected by campaign contributions, that has the opportunity to remove the judge in the case of negligence or a violation of the rules. And if a judge knew that, they would not do those things.
You're right, Jason. Actually, I left that out. That should be the 6th part of my proposed plan that we can discuss, because right now in the federal system, what they have what they're called judicial councils that review ethics complaints against judges by litigants and by others. And who is on those judicial councils? You guessed it, the friends of the judge in the same courthouse, where they eat lunch together, they have dinner, they have soirees. If you're in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown, And in my entire career, and I've filed several complaints with these judicial councils, is that they get dismissed. In fact, the judge that sits at the top of these judicial councils never addresses the issue. They just backhand it, and it's a joke. It's an absolute joke, a very bad joke, and a very dangerous joke, and they're not accountable. Meanwhile, in bar associations, they have enacted laws that say that anything that bar disciplinary councils or anything else does are immune. They're not held accountable. And right now, a lot of these bar disciplinary councils are being used as a sword against conservatives. There's a complaint pending, as I said, with Kellyanne Conway, the poor lady. Just because she spoke on Fox News. She's not even a lawyer, but yet 16 law professors filed a bar complaint against her with Bar Disciplinary Council in D.C. Now, who controls Bar Disciplinary Council? They're all Democrats that have given heavily to Obama and Clinton, notwithstanding the fact that this week she was recommended to be removed as counselor to the president because she made some comments about people that may be running for political office. I mean, this is what you're dealing with today, and there's nothing in the judiciary right now that can stand up to these things and hold them accountable. The other thing is, there's a Supreme Court case out there, and I forget the name right now, but the Supreme Court Indicted, it's not law, said that a judge can dismiss a case if the allegations are not plausible. This has been used several times in cases that I have brought. Now, who is it for some judge to say whether something's plausible before you even have the opportunity to take discovery, depositions, get documents, and whatever? Yet they are sitting there like they're God. And if they don't like the case, it's gone. And then you got to take an appeal, and then the people in the appeals court, the judges, they're also leftists frequently. They don't want to look at it. Supreme Court is so politicized that they won't even accept it most of the time. So that's the problem that we're in right now, Jason. And the American people don't have a judiciary that will stand up for them. So,
it's very much of an us versus them environment, Larry. I just think we need oversight, and the judges need to be aware that bad or illegal decisions will result in consequences that, we've got these judges that are sometimes putting people in jail for decades, and, nothing happens, even if information surfaces that they did it incorrectly. Look at Robert Mueller, Whitey Bulger, all that stuff.
No, you're right. And see, this is something which is dear to my heart. It's why I started Judicial Watch in 1994, watching judges. It's something that Judicial Watch really no longer does. They basically just get documents. But this is something that we are focused on. And I have brought lawsuits against judges because they're not totally immune. But, of course, that goes to another judge. Where does that go? So this whole concept of supervision of judges and picking them better is a very important issue. We're going to be talking more about that. And don't be fooled. These Trump judges are little better than the Clinton and Obama judges. Now, maybe they're not quite as evil. Okay. There's some good Clinton-appointed judges like Judge Sullivan, but they're few and far between. And the Republican judges so far, I've found, are scared to take on the establishment. We'll be right back with the verdict of Special Prosecutor with Larry Kramer.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Kramer.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
The verdict is this, ladies and gentlemen, fellow patriots. We, the American people, need to rise up and do it for ourselves. That's a constant message. I may sound like a broken record. At least I'm saying something, as opposed to Sean Hannity, who says the same thing every night and promises things that aren't going to happen to boost ratings and to boost advertising dollars. I mean, it's getting to the point where people, even other than myself, are saying, gee, I can't watch Hannity. He just says the same thing over and over again and has the same guests, same people, same message. But the American people cannot be lulled to sleep. They cannot be told that something's going to happen. You can't look to the government to do it for us, because this government is not a government of the people. It's a government of themselves. We know that. And that's why both the Democrat and the Republican establishments are very happy to try to stab the president either in the front of his chest or in his back to get rid of him. And make no mistake about it, the Republican establishment would like President Donald Trump gone. And watch what happens just in the next few weeks. There's more than just Congressman Amash that are going to be turning on the president. They're going to be fleeing the ship like rats because they're trying to preserve their own standing with their own constituency. And as the heat gets hot in the kitchen, they're not going to be there to defend the president. And that's why we at Freedom Watch, we are in effect the defense firm of this president, because if we don't preserve his presidency, and I don't tell people who to vote for, but I do bring about hard-hitting cases and citizens' grand juries, the next president of the United States is going to be 100 times worse than a Barack Obama. Believe me, it's going to be really, really bad. And I don't think you're ever going to see a conservative president again, particularly with the demographics in this country that are changing so rapidly. Why do the Democrats want open borders? Why do they want illegal immigrants to flood into this country? It's not because they have any humanitarian interest in these illegal aliens. I mean, look at San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi's district, where people are lying in the streets on Market Street, dying with syringes and feces and everything else, while she lives in her multi-million-dollar mansion not far from downtown San Francisco. She could care less. They want these illegal immigrants because they want them to be able to vote for their candidates. And in California and New York and other places, illegal immigrants can get driver's licenses. They use that to register to vote, and they will vote in large numbers against any conservative that's running that believes in controlling immigration and the rule of law. And that's why this may be the last time, unless something is done, that we ever see a conservative or even a libertarian president of the United States. Jason, your thoughts?
Well, Larry, I mean, it's beyond just Sean Hannity saying the same thing every night. It's you and your colleagues at Freedom Watch are actually doing something, not just talking about it differently, but making these citizens' grand juries happen. And it's all we can do. You got to just keep moving the ball down the field, right?
Well, yeah, it's like chopping a tree. You keep chopping the tree, eventually it will fall. And we're trying to do it legally. So, I want everybody to watch what we did next week. We're a video of that citizens' grand jury. We're going to be publicizing the indictment of Robert Mueller. We will be moving to a trial, an impartial trial with a retired judge or someone of suitable qualifications. We'll be picking a pettit jury. We will be prosecuting Mueller. We are seeking a conviction. We will then seek appropriate sentencing, and then we'll seek to mete out the sentence peacefully and legally. We'll, of course, ask to enforce the sentences because, you see, citizens' grand juries and citizens' trials are quite legal. We didn't have a Justice Department until 1870. Before this country was really, codified in terms of the criminal code, the rules of criminal procedure, we had to do it in ourselves. And what really counts is not just the law as man made it, but the law of God, doing what's right. And that's where we need to go. And that's what we're going to have to do. So, Jason, I thank you for your participation in that. We'll be back next week with another session, a psychological session at this point, of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause, sign up for our newsletters, go to Crowdsource the Truth. And I want to thank all of you for supporting us all of these years. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. And most of all, God save America. We'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.